that the 2020 census came out. This was before the Boris wave of post-Brexit migration, when we had legal migration running at 1.2 million a year. That's the same level of legal migration that America gets as a country. Obviously, we are a country the size of New York State, so you can only imagine the level of demographic and thereby cultural and economic change that is felt in the big cities.
We had this hilarious, if you know who Tom Skinner is, you understand how monumental this link up is. This is a beautiful thing. Thomas Skinner linking up with JD Vance, the Veep, beautiful thing. Bosh. We love to see it. Vance, of course, is in the Cotswolds. There's these really cringe protests. I wanted to bring Connor Tomlinson in to discuss this. I'll just give you a quick little peek here at the protest. This is hilarious stuff.
Whose streets? Our streets. Whose streets?
Roads have been blocked. Police are sort of everywhere. Chipping Norton, you rarely even see one police car, but we're seeing vans, we're seeing loads just dotting past, and it's all for this man who slags off our country in one breath and then wants to holiday here 6 months later. I think it's just hypocrisy.
Dude, how are you? What's up? You want to tell the people?
Yeah, fine, despite being under the iron curtain of censorship in this country. Though I've enjoyed watching JD Vance absolutely mog David Lammy for the last week.
Yeah.
Even his children caught more fish than... David Lammy is like living proof that somewhere a village is deprived of its idiot, and he's been serving as our foreign secretary for about a year now. So,
yeah, I mean, it's really fun watching. We were watching the video of the protesters in the Cotswolds protesting Vance's little vacation. And they're kind of rehashing a lot of our American, there's always a lot of the MLS fans catch a lot of crap because they try to use like English soccer chants, and it sounds really weird when it has like coming out of an American. It's kind of the other way around where they're saying like, hey, our streets, whose streets, our streets, but like in an English accent, it doesn't sound right. Who are these people, and why do they care so much about a foreign vice president?
So, on the copying of American tactics, don't forget that we had a Black Lives Matter movement over here after George Floyd, took one too many speedballs and died beneath the knee of Derek Chauvin. And we have next to no deaths in custody in this country, and when they are, they're white. So we don't really have a mass epidemic of black people dying at the hands of the police. Neither do you, by the way. But obviously, per capita is an eternal Sisyphean hill up which people of color struggle. So yeah, we just copy American culture at all times. I'm happy to have a decolonial movement and evict every single McDonald's from my high street and replace it with a chip shop instead. However, these particular protesters, as you noticed in your preamble that I was watching on Rumble because I'm a loyal fan, they weren't quite as energetic as most of the protesters that standing on street corners in America's full contact sport democracy. And that is because if they burst a blood vessel, the NHS waiting list is about a year, so they won't get attended to. They'll instead probably be offered MAID, considering we've just passed assisted dying in our country. But these people are often AstroTurfed and Soros funded. One of the people there is Zoe Gardner. She's this insufferable smug leftist who keeps showing up on broadcast networks as a migration expert. Basically, what she's done is she's done a undergrad in languages and then a PhD in migration studies, which means that borders are racist and we should let in infinity Bomalians until the heat death of the universe. And she went on a media training camp for left-wing influencers funded by the Open Society Foundation. So most of these protests, as is like patriotic millionaires that run these billboard vans around London saying, actually, we should tax the rich even more, even though we've had 16,500 millionaires flee the country in the last year, taking millions in taxes with them to Dubai and America as well. Soros continues to funnel money into these AstroTurfed protest movements to roll out for the cameras the impression that Vance, Trump are hated and that the Labour government are beloved. By the way, some polling done by The Telegraph, I think it was late last year, might have been early this year, among Gen Zers, English Gen Zers, they're more likely to vote for Trump than they are for Nigel Farage. So actually, among the people that you ask, especially the Zoomers who are very plugged in, like you and I, to social media, they rather like Trump and Vance. And if you poll the British public without saying that Trump's policies are associated with Trump, they overwhelmingly support all of his policies on energy, immigration, and kicking trans activists and sexually confused people out of women's sports locker rooms and toilets. So yeah, the idea that Vance isn't welcome, or the idea that Vance would even be offended by these memes when he's tweeted them out himself and finds them hilarious, utterly pathetic.
Yeah. I mean, there's kind of something. There's an interesting juxtaposition, right, where you have the picture that I was showing earlier of Thomas Skinner, and who's a legend. I mean, I don't know. I don't know how ubiquitous he is, and I think if you're plugged in American politics, you kind of get the idea of who he is. He's just this lovable dad over in Britain. He says "bosh" a lot. He loves having a supper. I mean, it's a beautiful thing, and he's linking up with JD Vance. It's all smiles. It's a really wholesome moment. And people are loving it. People are sharing it everywhere. They're just having a lot of fun. And then it's like flash. You go to, probably a half a mile down the street, and you have these nasty looking people protesting. I mean, it looks like the bar scene from Star Wars over there. It's a really horrifying thing. I mean, what is the dynamic there? It seems like the fun and the energy is with the Tom Skinners of Britain, kind of the older guard, the representative of the older guard. I mean, can you break down that dynamic a little more?
Okay, so as far as the protest goes, yeah, it looks like Arkham Asylum allowed most of its patients out. A lot of the time, this is funded by the UK Home Office. You get groups like Stand Up to Racism and the Socialist Workers' Party who receive kickbacks from the government because the British government, under the Conservative government, this was made even worse with the 2011 Charities Act, but they are demanded to allocate a certain portion of government funds to charities that advance the goals of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or community cohesion. Basically, a leftist communist agitation. Some of these patronage networks got their funding dried up because USAID was obviously funding them for some time. And as the head of that particular snake has been cut off, the Hydra has slightly less bite for the time being. But without government funding, without my tax money going straight to these freaks, they wouldn't have the ability to get out in the street with their pre-printed placards. As far as Thomas Skinner goes, though, I mean, you're right. The organic support for men like him, men like Vance, is apparent. Skinner, for some background, was on the UK version of The Apprentice, and he was, even though he didn't win, he was very popular because he seems like a down-to-earth, market stall holding family man, and he does these great videos on social media where he is the avatar of the Anglo.
Yeah.
He's basically like, if you read that passage from when Roman soldiers rocked up to Britain and saw all of the sort of Celtic people painted in blue woad up to their neck in a bog just shouting abuse at them, that's Thomas Skinner's face is what those Roman legionnaires saw when they first set foot on British soil. The reason why he's sort of stepped into politics a little bit is one, he's rumoured to be running for London mayor to unseat the odious and unpopular Islamist dwarf Sadiq Khan, who relies on immigrant client groups to vote him in perpetually because the English have been chased out of the capital city, London, and all the other major cities in the UK are now minority white British. But on the outskirts, there are still thriving English diasporas like myself who live in small enclaves, having been chased to the periphery of our historic homeland. And Tom Skinner could probably galvanise them all to vote out this Fabian fifth columnist who's been running London like his own personal fiefdom for some time now. And the reason people like Skinner is because he is unapologetically, almost unself-aware and romantically English.
Yeah.
So he appeared at the Now and England conference. There's footage of this on the Spectator YouTube channel. I had a bit of a bust-up with one of the panelists, Robert Toombs, who is a historian, who said that he almost cried when he saw girls in headscarves reciting Rudyard Kipling poetry, and it made him believe that you could learn to be English. He said that Englishness had nothing to do with ancestry. Tell that to the settlers who descended the gangplank of the Mayflower and set up the United States. There's a pretty big difference between them and Somalians, But Thomas Skinner actually gave a speech at that conference, and he wasn't an academic or an author or even a politician, but he gave the most romantic, relational version of what England means to him. It's where he grew up, it's his family, it's his ability to be a market stall trader, it's a pint in the pub on a Friday night, it's a pie, it's the fact that there are these all these creature comforts and all these familiar things that you couldn't get anywhere else, and you don't need to rationally justify them. It's just ours, and we love it. And for that reason, he's become a bit of a social media sensation and a darling of the British right, because he exists as the kind of man that we want to have live a happy life unmolested by mass immigration and multiculturalism. And JD Vance, considering he has a fantastic Twitter feed, I've got some mutuals with him, like Charles Cornish Dale. He actually is a fan of Thomas Skinner, and they had a mutual friend in my friend, James Orr, who brokered their introduction. I do know for a fact that Vance wanted to visit Jeremy Clarkson's pub the other day because Tom Skinner was actually there yesterday. But as far as I understand it, Jeremy Clarkson all boomers have a limit on how base they can be,
It's true.
and he is still not a fan of Trump and Vance, so I don't think that meeting went ahead. But Vance did have a barbecue with Skinner. I know he met Nigel Farage for breakfast. I think it was this morning. He had a meeting with Robert Jenrick, who was the favourite to take over the Conservative Party before he was beaten out by Kemi Badenoch, who is kind of trying to save face because Vance didn't actually meet with her. Instead, she was busy serving ice cream on the Isle of Wight. And she's just saying, oh, it's a scheduling conflict, which, you know, I think if the vice president said, can we meet for coffee, you drop literally everything. So I wonder if he just sees the writing on the wall and that she's going to be kicked out and Jenrick's going to be installed instead. I think we're just grateful, frankly, that JD Vance is here to unite the British right, knock some heads together and give everyone a stern talking to. It's just a shame he didn't meet with Rupert Lowe while he was here for a few days.
Yeah, I mean, it is a beautiful. I mean, kind of going back to the Skinner thing, and it's the energy around the Trump movement. It's a really important idea, which is the side that's having fun is going to beat the side that's miserable. And you do see the kind of the stuff that's going. Even though the right in Britain, I mean, in Britain, we've talked about it previously, is in a bit of a bad state. There is a bit of disunity. There's moments like this where everyone's just having fun. Everyone wants to be around that energy. I mean, that is a beautiful thing, and I think that's what Trump represents in the United States, is he is able to kind of bring people in just because of his vibe, his aura, so to speak. Maybe you could explore a little more sort of the division on the right now in the UK, because I mean, like here, things are pretty united. Trump is pretty good at reeling people in and out. Obviously, there's a lot of concerns so far in the administration, but it's nothing like the UK where, I mean, it's really difficult to see who's in charge, who's the leader, I mean, where people are at. So maybe you could break down the situation on the right in Britain a little more.
Yeah, so the right is attracting lots of young men because for years the ruling woke hegemony, which ideologically captured both the governing Conservative Party and then all of the parties on the left, like the Liberal Democrats, Labour, the Greens, and now this emerging splinter party that's headed up by former leader Jeremy Corbyn, who has attracted a bunch of Islamists and communists into one coalition. They're being nicknamed Jezbollah because he once said that Hezbollah is his friends. So all of that morality has captured politics for so long that now there's a kind of mutually reinforcing right-wing arms race spurred on by young men who have gotten onto the internet, realized they're public enemy number one, and just thought, well, I have nothing to lose by being unapologetically patriotic, and actually enjoying insulting these fat freaks who aren't going to reproduce anyway, who come to characterize the marginalized constituencies on the left, who are just demonstrating their naked anti-white hatred. At Glastonbury Festival, when a rap act called Bob Villain decided to gloat that heard you want your country back, shut the F up, live on the BBC with a bunch of middle-class professionals, some of whom were English, cheering him on. So, you know, chickens cheering on KFC, setting up a branch in their back garden. Yeah. So as for the splintering on the right, you have the Conservative Party, if you can call them on the right these days. It's the oldest and most successful political party in the world, but, well, other than today when they've slightly bumped up in the polls a little bit because of Robert Jenrick's social media activism. He's currently in the south of France, getting threatened with a knife by migrant gangs, filming on the ground how they're crossing over in boats, breaking into Britain via the English Channel. Thousands of them, 180,000 since 2018, 50,000 since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, that we're paying £145 a day each to put in 4-star hotels. We're paying their medical, dental, we're giving them new iPhones, spending money, everything. He's filming that, and so he's rocketing up the charts in terms of people that politicians that people like. But the Conservative Party is currently led by Kemi Badenoch, who has just had a reshuffle. She is she identifies as Yoruba Nigerian, although she's recently come out and said she doesn't feel Nigerian anymore. She feels British. But that's only after some pressure, because last December she gave an interview in the well, we call it the right-wing Spectator magazine, but its new editor, Michael Gove, a former government minister, actually endorsed Kamala Harris in the election last year. So there you go. He's been behind Kemi ever since she got into politics. But she actually said that she's a Yoruba Nigerian and other Nigerians are her ethnic enemies. So she's probably going to use the nuclear deterrent on Boko Haram if she ever wins an election. She's probably going to be kicked out by November because, well, her party absolutely hate her. Yeah. And all she ever does is doom scroll through negative comments on social media, and it's really getting to her, apparently. She's also late to every single meeting. Like, she runs on what my wife joked, because she was slightly late down the aisle. She said she was running on Kemi time, which I found quite funny. So she's going to be gone, probably replaced by Robert Jenrick. The Conservatives are fighting for their life at the moment, and the best they can hope for maybe in 2029 at this rate is an electoral pact with Reform. Reform UK are top of the polls. They are the legacy party from UKIP, then the Brexit party. They're headed by Nigel Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage, as I explained on Timcast when we were last on, about a month ago, was that Nigel Farage has felt the need to soften his rhetoric as of late. Now, after I explained that, he has since said that he's going to deport foreign criminals to El Salvadorian jails.
Yep.
He has doubled down on mass deportations, but he has replaced his former special services mayoral candidate, Ant Middleton, a proper military hard man, with a Muslim mum of 7. So we're going to have the Muslim Labour mayor versus the Muslim Reform mayor. This is your right-wing populist party, ladies and gentlemen. Handpicked by his former Muslim chairman, by the way, and lots of Muslim donors. Even though the British public are now polling, I think it's 53% in favor of saying that Islam is completely incompatible with Britain. That taboo has been broken, and it's because we've had loads of Muslim migration. We don't like actually having pro-Hamas parties in our parliament. We don't like having to eat halal meat. We don't like having loads of women walking around like ghosts wearing burqas on our high street. But hey, presto, we're still getting it anyway. So Reform are probably going to win, but at this rate, they're schizophrenic. Rupert Lowe is a man without a party. He's currently got the Restore Britain movement. He was Reform's former MP before he was kicked out because the police was called on him by the former Muslim chairman for saying some hurty words, and they stole his shotguns in the middle of the night. He would be a fantastic Trump-like figure if he had any path to power, but at the moment he is exiled from all party politics, so he's one to watch. And then there's a new party that's been started up that Tommy Robinson has joined. Tommy Robinson is hosting a massive rally on the 13th of September featuring Jack Posobiec, Jordan Peterson, Eva Vladingerbrook, and the like, called Unite the Kingdom. He's just come out of prison, obviously, for showing a film that, well, I can't actually talk about the contents of because there's basically a legal embargo in our country to talk about this. Even we don't have free speech in Britain, basically. And he has joined a party called Advance UK, which is headed up by another former member of Reform, the former deputy leader of Reform, Ben Habib, who is a half English, half Pakistani chap. He's a very nice guy, very patriotic. The problem that they have is that because there is such a abundance of marginal parties on the right, and Reform is sucking all of the air out of the room at the moment, they're not really registering in polls, and they're not actually a formal political party. But who knows? They could gain momentum in the coming years if Nigel Farage continues to drift leftward. At the moment, it looks like there's going to be a Reform majority government. Given that they don't have a strong foundation for their policies, they could screw it up and be more like Trump term 1 than Trump term 2. And we really don't have another 5 to 10 years to mess around because Muhammad is the number 1 baby name in this country. And by 2063, white Britons are going to be a minority, and the country is going to be at least 20% Muslim. And I don't see a future for the UK in those circumstances.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of the thing that people don't realize is that there's a hourglass and it's rapidly running out of sand on the top end. I mean, there was kind of some controversy recently. Ann Coulter came out and said that she actually believed that the British right was in a better position than the United States. And I think her main argument was the demographic situation. But I mean, the United States has kind of a unique ability to assimilate migrants in a rapid way that doesn't exist in the UK because English is such a distinctive ethnic origin. Obviously, there's a debate in the United States now over what is an American, right? I mean, if everybody has the potential of being an American, then it's not special. But that being said, there is a noticeable, change when you go from American identity to English identity, where English identity really is a strict, you take a DNA test and you find out if you're English or not. Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting observation by Ann Coulter, but I don't know if I agree because you look at the numbers over there and it's like, I mean, the English themselves are rapidly losing their homeland. I mean, how noticeable is this? I know you're not, in London. I mean, I've been to London quite a bit, and it's
I am. I do live in London. Not central London, but
Sure.
I was born in London and I live on the outskirts of London. So I'm about 20 minutes from the center of London by train. And I can tell you, man, it's like a refugee camp. It's horrible. I really don't like going there. I've advised a friend of mine who wants to set up a new media enterprise not to build a studio there just to minimize the amount of time that people are going in. People are fleeing by the droves. It was in 2021. That the 2020 census came out. This was before the Boris wave of post-Brexit migration, when we had legal migration running at 1.2 million a year. That's the same level of legal migration that America gets as a country. Obviously, we are a country the size of New York State, so you can only imagine the level of demographic and thereby cultural and economic change that is felt in the big cities. I met Anne a couple of weeks ago at a dinner that we were both at. Very nice. I think she's completely misguided. She's correct that Muslim immigration is a major threat to the UK. But I must say, man, when I landed in Washington Dulles to come on your show last time, what the hell is going on there? The passport queue is like Islamabad. Like, you guys are actually letting in the people that are going to prove to be the complete destruction of your nation. The fact that they've got giant monkey god statues now being erected in Texas, that self-governing enclaves, Muslim enclaves, are being put up in Texas, in Dearborn, Michigan. There's little Mogadishu in Minneapolis. Like, these people, as much as America can assimilate people, what matters is numbers and cultural proximity. It has assimilated people in the past because they've been largely from Western Europe and the Anglosphere. Don't forget, like, in the 19th century and the early 19th century, there was serious worry about whether or not large waves of German immigration could be integrated. So you guys are way far from Bratwurst and Lederhosen. You've got hijabs and honor killings springing up in Washington State now. So get a handle on it. It's going to be a real problem for you guys. But as far as the UK, demographics are pretty bad. I mean, Mohammed has been in the top 10 baby names for a number of years now. It's now number 1 in England. It's rising in Wales. We've got, I think, a quarter of all babies are born to foreign parents. 47% of all sex offences committed in London are from foreign nationals. Now, that's not non-British ethnic people, because that's not even recorded. That's just people who do not have British citizenship. So the number is way higher. We are number 1 in Western Europe, number 2 in all of Europe, and I think 18th in all of the world for crimes committed by foreign nationals. So we are just battery farming sex offenders at the host population's expense. We're literally just packed to the rafters with foreign rapists now. And this is government policy. It's not going to turn around anytime soon. They're not going to repeal any of the laws that keep these people here, that allow Pakistani pedophiles to appeal on human rights grounds to stay in the country because it says that it would depress his children if he were deported. Pedophile, by the way. These cases are just never ending, and we still haven't uncovered the depths of depravity for the actual grooming gang scandal. We know that it's happened in 50 towns and cities across the UK. We know thousands of girls have been victimized. We know that they've been branded M for Muhammad, had their tongues nailed to tables, been doused in petrol and set alight. Multiple girls have been killed either through ODing on heroin, had their homes set ablaze with their families inside, run over by cars. There have been police officers who were meant to be whistleblowers that have seemed to have been killed before they can come out and speak about this. We've had police officers, as of a couple of weeks ago, actually charged for participating in the rape gangs themselves. So the rot goes right through Parliament, the House of Lords, local councils, police officers. Every institution is completely corrupt in this country. They are all culpable for this mass, unwanted, unprecedented demographic experiment run on the British people. And so the idea that we're going to turn this around very quickly is looking pretty daunting, because so many people's hands are smothered in blood that most people just don't want to admit what they've done.
Yeah. I mean, it's grim. That's like, you look at the U.S., like you said, like you look at what nativism was in the 19th century, and they were like concerned that the Irish drank too much. That was like the big concern. And then now the people coming in are like eating dogs, and we're like, hey, can you not do that? Or they're eating cats.
Oh, mate, we had a video of some Somalians abducting geese from a park the other day. So we've started having the Haitian phenomena. Yeah. And I tell you what, I posted on X a couple of days ago, so does Roaring Nationalist puts out similar things. It's like all of these geese, all these ducks, all these donkeys, everything, they are worth way more than entire nations. Like I will happily ban every single foreign national from select countries just to keep our dogs, geese, and donkeys safe.
Yeah. They're very beautiful geese. It's really a shame to see Somalians do not perceive. I mean, that's kind of the big. I think that would be the big. That should be the big immigration question if you're trying to decide who can come in. Which honestly, we need net zero immigration. So, but maybe at a certain point,
negative, man. Negative. Net zero just means replacement.
Right. Yeah. Zero immigration. Yeah. Negative. I mean, re-immigration. That should be the test. It should be, do you view geese as friend or food? I mean, that's like very simple. There's the other test, which is when you eat a bacon cheeseburger. That's a great test to see who's permitted into the country as well.
Well, that's why the Spanish have tapas, right? They offer you wine and pork.
Yeah.
It's a test.
It's a good filter. So, I think, I don't know, maybe we should pursue something like that. But, yeah, I mean, look, it is really encouraging when you do see a lot of guys on the right in England, at high IQ that are promising, that love their country, and most importantly are actually getting involved. Because I mean, there's a lot of these people out there. It doesn't take many. To flip a country on its head. It really doesn't. So it's really encouraging to see in England. You are starting to see this emerging. I don't know what to call it. Maybe like a elite. Maybe I don't know. We need like a cool name, but
we're basically just sort of like dubbing ourselves the new right at the moment.
The new right.
Ourselves because I know like 10 to 15 people who I would include in this, and we're a very small batch of actually quite virtuous people as well. Like I think this is one of the great observances that Aristotle made is the only dividing line between monarchy and tyranny, aristocracy and oligarchy, mob rule and democracy is how virtuous the people are. This is, John Adams' famous observation that the Constitution is only made for a moral and religious people. If you replace the people or you replace the religion, then you don't have a constitution anymore, because the Constitution, as Joseph de Maistre observed, is just the codification of the sentiments that are already written on the hearts of men. And so if those men's hearts are different, the sentiments mean absolutely nothing. The only problem is there are lots of very bright, virtuous, engaged, and involved young right-wingers, but they're being gate-kept out of institutions. They're being constantly dismissed and denigrated. Lots of them aren't being published by the existing right-wing infrastructure. And we don't have the same level of capital or institution building that the Americans did. Like, we don't have an American moment. We don't have as many publications springing up as you guys did. I've got an ear to the ground, and they're quite large, so it's quite easy to do, as to whether or not people are actually trying to build this sort of stuff, and people are, but they're only building it because they've been ignored for so long. And the existing establishment institutions think if they just ignore this growing right-wing energy, who are more interested in questions of identity, immigration, and belonging than they are just raw economics and logistics, they just think they'll go away. But instead, what they don't understand is we're actually way more annoyed and autistic than you guys are stubborn. So it just means that we're going to put our energies in the same direction, just down a different avenue, and we're going to be a continual stone in the shoe of your containment attempts. And I can only be optimistic, or not optimistic. I can only continue pressing on in the face of adversity because I know that a few other people are doing this, and because if I didn't, it would be like that First World War poster where the guy's got his kids around his feet and on his knee, and they say, "Daddy, what did you do in the war?" Like, if I look my future kids in the eye and just say, "Yeah, I basically did nothing and handed the country over to becoming a caliphate," then I've just got no excuse, have I?
Yeah, that's base, very base. Connor, dude, I appreciate it. Where can people find you?
They can find me at Con_Tomlinson on X. They can find me at Connor Tomlinson on Substack and YouTube. I do most of my writing for Courage Media, and I also co-host Deprogrammed over at the New Culture Forum on YouTube. And you will be able to find me on Timcast early next month. So I will see you in person, sir.
Let's go, dude. Well, I appreciate it, Connor. Until next time, man.
Pleasure.
Alrighty, well, that was Connor Tomlinson. I love that guy. He's a friend. He's a great look. I know I go a little negative on the show sometimes, but there is some promise. And seeing guys like Connor in the fight, I mean, it really does. It warms the heart. It's a beautiful thing. I am generally an optimistic person. I do think that we're gonna win. I trust Trump. I think he's doing some great things. I think we're gonna come out on the other side. I really do. Mainly because we want it more than they do. And that's really what it comes down to. And like I said earlier, the side that's having fun will always beat the side that is miserable. And if you look at the right, we're having a lot of fun. We're having a good time. You look at the left, well, you've seen the videos. So with that, I'm going to wrap up here. We will be back tonight at 8 p.m. for Timcast IRL. Might be a Philcast tonight. We'll have to see the situation. I want to shout out Serge for holding it down in the producer chair. Andrew's been clutching up. But Serge he's taken the saddle here. So shout out to Serge. With that, we'll be back for Timcast IRL. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Real Tate Brown. Give me a follow there. I'll keep you updated on what the play is. Maybe if I'll be on tomorrow, I don't know. We'll see what happens. But follow me there. We'll hang out and see you guys tonight. Thank you.